Hello, this is Paige Dansinger and Stacy Quackenbush. We are excited to launch Dynamite Labs here at the Immerse Global Summit. We're speaking today to you about museums in the metaverse.
Super excited to be here, Paige. And I think that there is a metaverse of opportunities for us to discuss today. 24/7 docent engagement. I mean, you and I have loved this. The idea that you can have a metaverse that's open all hours to everyone across the world with 24/7 engagement avatars that lead games, quest challenges, and your guide your experience. Then there's immersive education, which we're so fond of, the integration of video and 3D objects that you can dissect and look at and play with. And interactive exhibitions is something you've really been pioneering. And I love that story of what you did with the kids in the White Wall Museum. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? I mean, I think everyone should hear it.
Oh, of course, Stacy. We have a white wall museum at Better World Museum inside of Horizon Worlds. And when participants in the Artist in Residence program, they are invited to have this mission to deconstruct the white wall template museum and recreate a better world. We've had 3 incredible participants inside of Horizon, and our sister museum inside of Rec Room works with teens building leadership roles in a similar way. We worked with 3 under 15-year-olds and an 11-year-old artist in residence to create Better World Museum there. Now, some of those members and participants of our programs have gone on to university to study 3D design.
Wasn't some of the content also presented to the World Health Organization?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
we
super
presented
exciting.
team leadership roles and world building in the metaverse as a recipe for resilience during the first part of the pandemic.
So exciting. I mean, those are just simple ways that we can expand patron base, right? You're getting the youth and the younger generations involved in the museums via the metaverse, and that in turn gets their participation in the physical buildings. And then community diversity. I mean, that's something that you've spearheaded in both IRL and virtual experiences, as have I. And events. I mean, I don't know that there's anybody who's done more events than you in the metaverse. I think it's in, you probably have done tens of dozens of them. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about some of your favorite event experiences?
Well, of course, the image that we're seeing now is from Angel Artist's Black Women Art Museum. She is a participant in the Better World Museum Artist in Residence program. And when she dismantled the museum, this is what she created. Programs like this and our Plus Community Voices program at Horizon Art Museum, using rebuilding art history using primitive shapes. We teach skill building, literally how to create a button that will amplify the members' voices, sharing their own stories that are diverse and inclusive to bring a community voice to the museum. It should be known that the metaverse is an opportunity for creating museums that are truly of, by, for all.
Love that, of, by, and for all. It's a great, great motto. A few things that are really unexpected and fantastic are the ideas that there are now metaverse platforms that are near photorealistic. So museums moving into the metaverse no longer have to compromise the quality of the recreation of the 3-dimensional object or the painting. You can get it to look incredibly real. And you can even build in, the patination, you can build in wear, tear, and also layering. And that brings us to 3D assets. I mean, one of the best things about 3D assets is the ability to expand the way that we educate in art. So if you want to bring in a piece of antiquity, you want to dissect it, you want to look at the wear, the tear, the paint, you could break down the layers and really activate it in a way that you can in IRL. Additionally, social engagement, the ability to truly use inventive ways to immerse the patron in the works, right? Here we've got an example of an immersive dinner party, which you could do simultaneously in IRL and virtually, which I love that. I mean, any opportunity to bridge the gap is really an opportunity to be inventive, to educate, and to engage in a new way.
Absolutely. We created a dinner party once, and we had game designers from Brazil creating foods from their lives and their culture and region. It was an exchange of not just world building, but ideas, empathy, and a growth understanding for each other in this world.
Yes, and that's exactly all about community building, right? One of the ways you can bring about community is with games, quests, and challenges, because you have different people from all over the world coming together to solve problems, right? I mean, that's why we love hackathons. This idea that you come in, here's this really engaging problem to solve, and you can work with people you've never met before to do so, win NFTs, win challenges, and engage deeper into the content and the juiciness of a museum. Paige, tell us a little bit more about some of your favorite games, quests, and challenges that you've designed in some of the over 200 metaverses you built to date.
Well, Stacy, thank you. I will. But first, I really want to circle back to something you said about problem solving. Really, these games, quests, and challenges create the opportunity to learn how to problem solve with people that often one may consider an other. And ultimately, if you are able to have one objective for your metaverse, it would be ultimately to teach people to work better together, right? So when there are crises like climate or racism or economic fallouts, there are ways that people are able to work better together. And so museums have a special opportunity today to implement these quests and challenges simply for the sole purpose of igniting problem solving. So one of our favorite at Better World Museum, of course, we have hackathons for climate. These climate hackathons, we invite people to come together and protect the water from hydrofluorocarbons and other pollutants. It's a real gas. Another really fun game. All puns are intended with me. So another fun game is our Everyone's a Critic game, and people converge at the sculpture garden, and we put on wearables and we explore the collection using themed suggestive words. And we have a hayride there right now that gives a really full tour. It's really fun, but games like that and our emoji treasure cards and our visual thinking strategy cards are some ways that we're able to create games. Now, in the metaverse, you can literally do anything in the world, and pretty much everything you can't do in a real museum, from licking the art to jumping right on top of it or remixing it by pulling it apart. All of these things can happen in the metaverse.
Yes, and we haven't even touched upon NFTs as catalysts for games, quests, and challenges, which are really exciting ways to integrate some fun into the metaverse, as well as integrate utility into the NFTs. So let's talk about wellness. I think you and I, when we were working with our museum clients this year, were really taken back a little bit, just a little bit, by the fact that they really wanted to engage wellness, that the museums are realizing that music and visual arts have for centuries been a source of healing and evolution and wellness, and that a portion of their patron base is visiting the museum not just because it's art, but because it does provide them a state of wellness. And we can actually duplicate that in the metaverse via immersive art experiences, via spatial sound. I mean, I know from working in immersive tech-driven venue development that you direct sound, you can change brain patterns. You direct sound, you direct where someone looks, you direct how they feel. You actually create something that is truly immersive, and that does not just have to exist in IRL. We actually have the technology to do it virtually, and that all of these things build a stronger, more vibrant, and more dedicated community. Patron loyalty is ultimately what you achieve through this. Would you agree, Paige?
Absolutely. Not only are we building in a sense of well-being, but through doing this, we're dissolving feelings of isolation and overwhelming feelings of powerlessness to create a more resilient or less fragile sense of individuals, groups, and communities. We
So
see
important.
this hands-on in our activities in the metaverse and have examples that show proof of positive impact out of the metaverse.
So true. And I mean, it's more important now than it ever has been on the coattails of COVID. Back to NFTs. Let's talk about how they are fun in the museum world. I mean, every piece of art tells a story, right? It tells a story about the artist, the time in history. It tells a story about the content. All of these things are really ripe for NFTs. You could produce NFTs around a particular art historical period, around an exhibition, around a piece of art. Depending upon how the content you stream, meaning the content, the metaverse, you could do in metaverse NFT minting. So you go to the exhibition in real time, you mint the NFT that you're after. Antiquities preservation. I mean, that's a little bit more tokenization of a work, but let's talk about that. You know, you have a piece of art that really needs restoration, tokenize it, fractionalize it, raise the money that way for the historical preservation. And then, you know, you're creating a community of people that are engaged in and committed to the preservation of the artifact. And by doing so, the museum no longer has to choose where it spends its money and how the money is appropriated for preservation. Blockchain streaming. I mean, this is this kind of like the backside stuff that allows us to do these amazing things. I mean, you take the content you put on blockchain, you get that robust NFT integration. The NFTs can be 3D objects that you bring in. They could actually be representation of works of art. Your ability to up the ante with the games, quests, and challenges is based in this moment, in this technology, and the more that we talk about this, the more that we experience it, the more that we design for it, the better our capabilities will be overall for all metaverses, despite where they're built. Revenue. I mean, you and I are always talking about, like, how do we match the creativity to the money? Because ultimately a metaverse should be built as a long-term asset with meaningful ROI, and that builds fan, patron, customer loyalty. So the ability of a museum to like do virtual and physical memberships, to do events and merchandise, which, my gosh, you've done a ton of experiences in the metaverse around merchandise and events. Do you want to share some of those? Because they're pretty poignant.
Well, thank you, Stacy. I'm excited right now about creating merchandise and working with different levels of creating commerce inside of the metaverse, having different kinds of participatory monetized experience, from 3D assets to NFTs, to even selling worlds and experiences. Right now, the museum shop at Horizon Art Museum has been working with community members to build different t-shirts and objects that will be for sale. And then part of that revenue will be donated to charitable organizations. So there's also ways to create community activity where people are participating in the actual functions and making new experiences in these shops. Events are one of my favorite things to produce. Well, Stacy, last week we had a 8-day summit with over 50 presenters, panels, and art world hops within all inside of the metaverse. Every night, people would gather from all around the world to share their work, amplify their voice, and create relationships that can be sustainable together.
It's so exciting. And the thing I love the most about events in the metaverse that I think people are not aware of is that you get to do everything you do in the physical. You can add entertainment, you can add food, you can add decor. All of those things are absolutely possible, and they make it that much richer. Thank you, everyone. I'm Stacy Quackenbush, and this is Paige Dansinger, and we're from Dynamite Labs.
And we are so happy to be able to welcome you and thank you at the Immerse Global Summit and share the brand new launch of Dynamite Labs.
Thanks again.